welcome and thank you for being here. We have quite some ground to cover today. To start with this morning's announcement, because Thomas, we made a very important announcement this morning. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, indeed. I mean, Umicore is a company, as you know, that prides itself on management continuity and long-term thinking. And as you know, we've had only 3 CEOs in the last 26 years. So, and the last CEO, Marc, has been for almost half of that 26 years the CEO, and he's led the company with great effectiveness and success. So if the time comes to designate a successor and the supervisory board has come to a final choice, then I guess, yes, that's pretty great news.
Indeed it is. And why Mathias? What made the supervisory board choose for Mathias?
In the end, you make a final choice, a final trade-off between various possibilities, and we chose for Mathias. And what I think played into that decision is, first of all, that we saw Mathias's track record of success, of delivering on his various jobs that he's had in the past, that he has also wealth of relevant experience, clean mobility in terms of leading that at Faurecia, but also his broad geographical experience, having lived in Asia, having led a global operation of 20,000 plus people in all continents. But also, of course, we looked at the human being, at the character, at the values, and we really liked his balanced personalities. I've made a fair amount of people bets in my career, and I can tell you I feel pretty good about this one.
Thank you, Thomas. And welcome, Mathias, and soon we will be able to officially welcome you to join the Umicore family. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm first of all very honored to be here today and to be very soon part of the Umicore family. I'm 46 years old. I'm married since 22 years. My wife is a teacher and a business coach, and we have a 14-year-old son. And we currently live in Paris, which is our home today. We have traveled quite a bit, as Thomas said, around the world through my professional career. I spent time mostly in 3 companies. Siemens, where I stayed 6 years. Then Siemens Automotive was taken over, was bought, so it didn't even change the company, by Continental, where I stayed 7 years, and now 8 years with Faurecia. And during that time, we covered several continents. We have been living in China 6 years, in Shanghai. That was quite an exciting time. Our son was born during that time, which added a special excitement to it. And then 11 years in Germany in several locations, Munich and Nuremberg, and now Paris, 3 years in France. So during my career, I have done different assignments of different scope, always with increasing complexity and increasing size. Some of them were more on technology, on product, on innovation. Some of them more on manufacturing, on execution and operations. So I think I've gathered over the time quite a broad experience in terms of business management, international exposure, but also especially with the playing field of cleaner mobility and circular economy that is also very important for Umicore.
You will be joining us from Faurecia, where you have been working in the past 8 years.
Right.
Can you tell us a bit more about your current position within Faurecia?
I'm responsible for one of the 4 business groups. It's called Clean Mobility. It is a business group that is consisting of 3 product lines. The first one we call ultra-low emission systems for passenger cars. So these are exhaust systems from the engine to the tailpipe that treat the emissions, but also the acoustics of combustion engine driven cars, and especially more and more important, hybrid powertrains. The second product line is called commercial vehicle and industrial. So here we are treating the emissions of medium and heavy duty trucks, commercial vehicles, but also off-road. And a growing sector of importance is what we call the high horsepower segment. So marine and stationary power generation after treatment systems. And the third part, which is probably the most forward-looking one, is called zero emission. In zero emission, we have products around the battery electric vehicle technologies, but especially our focus is on fuel cell. So we are developing and producing fuel cell stack systems in a joint venture, a 50-50 joint venture with Michelin, where I'm also the co-chairman of this joint venture. And we have another activity to work on hydrogen storage systems. So that means to keep, hydrogen is a complicated gas that it tries to escape. So it's quite some high tech we put together here in 700 bar tanks and tank systems that we're delivering to customers like Hyundai, Renault or Stellantis. So all these three product lines together, it's a size around 4 billion euro of sales last year. It was more pre-COVID and will be significantly more this year, with over 20,000 people all around the world, 80 locations, most of that manufacturing plants, but also 8 R&D centers. So altogether, I think the playing field of cleaner mobility is quite similar to the challenges that Umicore has in front of itself. So I'm very happy to bring also this perspective from my experience with Faurecia now into the Umicore family.
Marc, I'm also very curious to hear about your input. What strikes you about Mathias?
You know, when you have a conversation with Mathias, it becomes very quickly visible that he can deal with complexity in a fairly natural manner. He incorporates all dimensions, moving parts, and perspectives in a very fluent manner, and can derive the big picture from that in a very smooth manner. However, what struck me the most when I had the first face-to-face meeting with Mathias is his balance. The balance that he brings between enthusiasm on one side and serenity on the other side. And in a company, in a business like ours, this is of paramount importance. You know, we're working and operating in very dynamic markets with sometimes rapid changes in competitive landscape, in technologies, and there is a lot of agility needed. And above that, it is important that when the going gets tough, because that happens, that you bring the serenity, that you don't panic, and Mathias can definitely do that. And on the other side, when everything goes well, when the stars are aligned, you should not get carried away either. And there again, serenity matters and will continue to matter. So that's what has struck me the most in my interactions with Mathias, is that balance that he brings between enthusiasm on one side and serenity.
Mathias, how well did you know Umicore when you were first approached for this position?
Of course I knew Umicore because Umicore is part of my daily life, if you want, already today, because Umicore is a very important supply chain partner of Faurecia. We have two business fields where we clearly touch each other. This is the automotive catalyst business, where we are using Umicore products to, at the end of the day, manufacture the complete exhaust line, as well as on the fuel cell side, which gets more and more importance of our work, and the fuel cell catalysts and catalyst solution from Umicore are treated in the joint venture Symbio that we have with Michelin. So I was well aware about Umicore. I was obviously aware that Umicore is an important player in this arena that I'm also in today.
And what was your first reaction when you were approached, and maybe also first impressions during your interactions with the company?
I was honored to be asked for such an important position, and what finally struck me is the history and the great track record of Umicore to transform itself in the last 20 years, started by Thomas and then continued by Marc, which is one of a kind in the industry. I didn't see this before, and I saw that there is enormous technological know-how inside Umicore. The people I've been interacting with really radiate that, but also a great sense of passion and motivation. And finally, obviously, in the selection process, I was working a lot with Thomas and the board of Umicore, and I was also very impressed about not only the competence of the different board members, but of the diversity of their backgrounds, of their know-how, which I think is a great strength factor for Umicore on its trajectory forward.
You talked in the beginning about the transformation of Umicore, and obviously sustainability is a very big part in that transformation and is part of our DNA. We have just launched our new sustainability strategy, Let's Go for Zero.
Yes.
What is your feedback on that strategy?
It's a great strategy. It's a great strategy, and I told Marc, I watched the live webcast, of course, last week, and I was impressed by the messages that were sent, also by the professionalism that it was done, this event. But the messages really struck me because they were covering the whole aspect. If you talk about going to zero, it's not only a net zero greenhouse gas emission, it's zero harm and zero inequality, which overall is, I think, reflecting very well the understanding, the self-understanding that Umicore has and its responsibility towards society, towards nature, towards the planet at the end of the day. I'm really happy, and I'm really even more motivated now because I will try with the whole Umicore team to deliver those targets now in the next years to come, and I'm really excited to start the journey.
Marc, and how do you see the transition of leadership from you to Mathias?
Well, it will be a smooth transition, of course, and so we will work together as soon and as much as possible. And once Mathias formally takes over at a date yet to be determined, then we'll have a short overlap during which we will do the formal handover, and Mathias will then have the keys and be ready to roll.
Marc, do you have any advice to Mathias?
Yes, I do have a piece of advice to Mathias. Mathias, if things do not go your way, just blame it on the chairman.
I'm used to that.
Now, joking aside, if I had one piece of advice, only one piece of advice to give Mathias, I would say just take the time and truly take the time to go and meet our people and establish personal relationships. We have an amazing group of talented, creative and passionate people in this company across regions, and people who are driven by their passion, their pride because they know that they can bring solutions to some societal challenges, and this is what really drives them. So if you really take the time to go and meet this talent in the various parts of our organization, you will also discover how to unlock the true power of this company.
And Marc, we are not really saying goodbye to you because you have been proposed to join the Supervisory Board in 2023. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm excited and grateful as the board recognizes that I can continue to contribute to the success story of Umicore. I'm excited to continue the journey, the successful and growth journey of this wonderful company, and to continue to have personal contacts and connections with all the Umicore employees. So that is exciting me.
We're looking forward to that. Thank you, Marc. Thomas, before closing this discussion, I have an important final question for you as well, because appointing a new CEO, you said it already in the beginning, it's once in a decade, so very big step for Umicore. Does this also mean a new strategy, new direction?
Well, in a way, we have delivered and successfully delivered on the Horizon 2020 strategy, so that's a great foundation for Umicore. 2021 will be a year with record results, obviously partly driven by the tailwinds on the metal prices, but more importantly by having pursued the right strategies for the last 20 years, by and large. And so, I mean, these are strong building blocks. I mean, the culture of Umicore is a building block that will not change. The attention to sustainability, which is part of our DNA, that's not what will change. We have now announced these new sustainability targets very effectively, and I think that will continue to be a guiding light for the next 10 years. We've committed to them. Now we have to deliver on them. Now, markets change, competitive landscapes change, opportunities change, challenges change, so strategies will need to continue to be refined, evolved, adapted, and that's the job of the management board under Mathias's leadership to continue to propose adapted strategies in each of these competitive playing fields in the years ahead. And it's the role of the Supervisory Board to validate these strategies and to monitor their implementation. So, but I really have a great trust, as I've expressed before, in the management board, in Mathias' leadership of the management board, to really do that and to bring Umicore to the next level of success.
Thank you for that, Thomas, and thank you, Mathias and Marc, for this discussion.